This story is titled, Cat Cameras Expose My Wife's Affair. Now she's left with nothing, not even our cats, and she is begging for forgiveness. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. They say ignorance is bliss, but my wife made one mistake. She underestimated just how clueless I wasn't. Okay, Reddit, to begin, I'm Dave, 39 male, and up until recently, I thought I was living the life most people dream of. A decent job, a cozy home, and a wife I thought I could trust. Samantha, 40 female, had always been this whirlwind of confidence and charm. We met back at a 4th of July BBQ in 2018, hosted by some mutual friends, and have been married for 3 years now. Fast forward to today, and I'm in Japan for a 2-week work trip. I manage logistics for a global company, so international travel is part of the gig. I've always been the kind of guy who works hard and plays by the rules. I put in the hours because I want to give Sam the kind of life I never had growing up. A nice house, stability, and security. Sam always seemed supportive of my work. Whenever I'd get an assignment overseas, she'd flash that bright smile and say things like, "I'm so proud of you, babe. Go make that money, and I'll take care of things here." Sometimes I'd feel a twinge of guilt for leaving her behind so often, but she never made a big deal about it. Now I see it for what it was. She wasn't supporting me, she was making room for her little secret life. This particular Tuesday, I was sitting in my hotel room after a long day of meetings. I was dead on my feet, my laptop humming in the background as I scrolled absent-mindedly through my phone. I'd already texted Sam earlier, the usual quick, "Hey, how's everything back home?" She replied with her typical upbeat tone. "Everything's fine here. Cats are being spoiled, of course. Don't overwork yourself. Miss you." I didn't think much of it. I figured she was doing her usual thing, working from home, binging a show on Netflix, and fussing over our 2 cats, Jasper and Luna. That's what life looked like when I was gone, or so I thought. As I scrolled through my notifications, one caught my eye. Camera connection interrupted. Living room. My heart did a little flip. We had a simple camera set up in the house for Jasper and Luna. I'm a bit of a worrier when it comes to those cats. They're like my kids. The cameras automatically notify me if there's motion or if someone messes with the connection. Usually this only happens if there's a power outage or the Wi-Fi glitches. But this was different. The notification said, "Connection interrupted," which meant someone had manually turned off the feed. I frowned, sitting up straighter. Why would the cameras be turned off? Sam never bothered with them. She'd always teased me about being overprotective of the cats. I figured maybe it was some glitch, but my gut told me something else. I reopened the app and hit reconnect. What Sam didn't know was that I had full remote access. If someone tampered with the cameras, I could reconnect them in seconds. The app took a moment to load, but then the feed popped up, crystal clear. My eyes locked on the screen, and my breath caught. There was Sam, sitting on our couch, the same couch we'd picked out together, next to a guy I'd never seen before. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a friend, a coworker stopping by? But then I noticed the way they were sitting. Absolutely not how friends normally sit together. Then it happened. They started getting more intimate. My brain froze. My stomach dropped like a rock. I couldn't process what I was seeing. This wasn't just some innocent visit. This was cheating. Full-on, deliberate cheating. I sat there in stunned silence, watching it unfold in real time. Sam pulled back slightly and smirked at him. That's when I heard her voice, clear as day through the app's audio. "Don't worry, I turned the cameras off earlier. He's in Japan for another week, and he never checks these things anyway." The guy chuckled. "You're sure?" She grinned. "Trust me. He's clueless. Clueless." That single word snapped me out of my fog. My blood went cold, and my heart pounded so hard I could hear it. Sam thought I was clueless. She thought she was clever, turning off the cameras and hiding her tracks. What she didn't realize was that I'd turned them right back on. But I didn't let the rage take over. Sure, I wanted to smash my phone, call her, and scream every profanity I knew, but that wasn't going to help me. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't call her in a fit of rage. I sat back, hit record on the feed, and saved the entire video. My golden opportunity to ruin her life the right way. It was surreal, watching my wife, the woman I'd trusted, the one I thought was holding down the fort, making out with some stranger on my couch. She had planned this. She had waited for me to leave, pretended to support my work, and then turned my absence into her opportunity. The betrayal stinged, but I pushed it down. There was no room for emotion. Not yet. I wasn't going to play this emotionally. I was going to play it smart. Instead, I started thinking, if she was dumb enough to do this, and confident enough to talk about it openly, what else was she hiding? How long had this been going on? Who was this guy? I sat in my hotel room staring at the recorded video, my fingers trembling slightly as I replayed it one more time. Sam curled up with some guy I didn't recognize, laughing like they were the only two people in the world. His arm around her, their kiss. Every second of it felt like a hammer hitting me in the chest. The next morning, I woke up to the usual cheery text from her. "Morning, babe. Hope you're not working too hard. Miss you tons." It was almost laughable. The same woman who just made out with another man on my couch now wanted me to believe she was at home missing me. I stared at the message for a minute, debating whether to say something sarcastic like, "Miss me, huh? What about your little guest last night?" But I stopped myself. Instead, I kept it short and sweet. "Morning. Work's busy, but all good. Give Jasper and Luna a hug for me." She replied right away, "Will do. Can't wait for you to come home. Love you." I nearly laughed out loud. Love me? Sure. But her little charade worked to my advantage. She didn't suspect anything. That gave me time to dig deeper. I spent the next few days carefully monitoring the cameras every evening. Like clockwork, Brad, as I later started calling him, would show up. Sam would let him in without hesitation, and the two of them would make themselves at home. Day one, I saw him bring takeout, burgers and fries. They sat on the couch, eating and watching Netflix like a happy little couple. Sam tucked her legs under herself the way she used to when we were first dating. I couldn't stop watching, even though it made me sick. I recorded the entire evening, time-stamping the clips as I saved them to a secure folder. Day two, Brad brought drinks. They sat close, talking and laughing. After dinner, they disappeared into my bedroom. That was harder to watch, but I needed proof. I checked the timestamp and made a note of how long he stayed. Day three, he showed up with a gym bag, which told me this wasn't just a casual fling. He was spending time here regularly, probably staying overnight. It wasn't a one-time mistake. It wasn't a lapse in judgment. This was deliberate. Every day, I downloaded the videos, backed them up to cloud storage, and sent copies to myself via email. I wasn't taking any chances. My lawyer would need irrefutable proof that Sam wasn't just cheating, but making our home the scene of her affair. While monitoring the cameras, I started digging into our finances. Sam and I shared a joint account, though I was usually the one adding funds to it. I logged in and started scrolling through recent transactions. That's when I found them. Charges for Uber Eats deliveries that coincided perfectly with Brad's visits. A dinner for two at a fancy Italian restaurant 2 weeks ago. A charge for a hotel room about a month ago, one I'd never stayed at. It wasn't even subtle. She'd been using our money to fund her little affair. In between monitoring the cameras and logging transactions, I called my lawyer to update him on everything I'd found. "Let me get this straight," he said. "You have video footage of her with another man in your home, financial records showing she used joint funds for their expenses, and timestamps proving this has been ongoing?" "Yeah," I replied. "I have everything. Does this help me?" "Oh, Dave, this is as good as it gets. In a divorce case, clear evidence of infidelity and financial misconduct puts you in a great position. The judge won't just take your side. He'll make sure she doesn't walk away with a penny more than she deserves." I felt a small spark of satisfaction. My lawyer told me not to confront her yet. The goal was to let her keep digging her own grave while we lined everything up on my end. Once I got back home, we'd serve her divorce papers with the full weight of evidence to back it up. By the 5th day, I had so much footage and documentation that I felt like a private investigator. Brad's visits had become so predictable it almost felt routine. I knew what time he'd show up, what time he'd leave, and which days he stayed overnight. The worst part was seeing how comfortable Sam looked, unaware of the fact that the cameras are on. She wasn't just fooling around with this guy. She was building something. She let him sit on my couch, drink from my glass, and play with Jasper and Luna like he belonged there. Watching them felt disgusting, but I didn't let it get to me. I kept reminding myself, this is evidence. This is how I win. On one of the final nights before my flight home, Brad actually picked up Jasper and cradled him like a baby. Sam cooed, "See? Jasper loves you. You're a natural." My jaw clenched so hard I thought I'd crack a tooth. Jasper didn't love Brad. Jasper didn't know any better. He was a cat. But seeing another man so comfortable in my house, while Sam smiled and encouraged it, sealed it for me. This wasn't just betrayal. This was disrespect. I felt strangely calm as I packed my bags for the flight home. Sam had no idea what was coming. I wasn't just going to call her out. I was going to destroy the comfortable little world she thought she'd built behind my back. The last text I sent before my flight was perfectly normal. "On my way home. Can't wait to see you and the cats." She replied with a heart emoji and, Yay! I'll have dinner ready. She still thought I was clueless. Good. That's exactly what I wanted her to think. The flight home felt like the longest one of my life. I wasn't nervous. I was ready. 2 weeks of watching my wife, Sam, parade her affair all over my house had burned any love I had left for her to the ground. The only thing keeping me sane was knowing I had every shred of evidence I needed. Video files, bank statements, and timestamps, all meticulously organized in a folder titled, "For the Lawyer." As the plane touched down, I got one last text from Sam. "Can't wait to see you, babe. Jasper and Luna have been so clingy lately. Dinner will be ready when you get here. Love you so much." Love me? Sure, Sam. Love me like you loved Brad on my couch. I didn't reply. I didn't want to tip her off. I had a plan, and I wasn't going to let her fake sweetness ruin the satisfaction of watching her world crash down. Instead of heading straight home, I went to my lawyer's office first. I hadn't told him yet that I'd just landed. When I walked in, he looked up from his desk and grinned. "You've got perfect timing, Dave. Everything's lined up for you." I dropped into the chair across from him, feeling the fatigue of the trip and the weight of what I was about to do settle in. "I want this handled as soon as possible," I told him. "It will be." He opened up a manila folder, the same one I'd filled with evidence from Japan. "You've got enough proof here to shut down any argument she could make. Infidelity? Financial misconduct? Honestly, you're in the best possible position." "What happens now?" I asked. He leaned back in his chair, calm and confident. "We'll serve her the divorce papers immediately. Given what you've provided, we'll go after the house, the savings, and a no alimony ruling. Judges don't take kindly to cheaters, Dave. You're golden." Hearing that lit a fire under me. I'd spent 2 weeks holding back every bit of anger I had, playing it cool while I recorded her betrayal. Now, it was time to deliver the knockout punch. It was late afternoon when I finally pulled up to the house. It looked the same as it always did. Clean, welcoming, like nothing had changed. But as I sat there in the driveway, staring at the place I'd called home for years, I realized it didn't feel like home anymore. Sam had ruined it. I grabbed my bags, walked up to the front door, and let myself in. The smell of pasta hit me immediately. Sam always made pasta when I came home. It was her go-to welcome back meal. I heard her humming in the kitchen, like the perfect wife who'd spent the last 2 weeks waiting for me. "Babe, is that you?" Sam called from the kitchen. I took a deep breath. This was it. "Yeah, it's me." She came around the corner, wiping her hands on a towel. That fake bright smile plastered across her face. "You're back early. Why didn't you tell me?" I looked at her for a moment, really looked at her. She was wearing her favorite lounge clothes, like she'd spent the day casually waiting for me. Her hair was pulled back in a loose bun, and for a second, I wondered how someone who looked so normal could do something so low. "I wanted to surprise you," I said. My voice was steady. Her smile faltered just a bit, like she wasn't sure what to make of my tone. "That's sweet. Dinner's almost ready. You must be starving." I ignored her. "How's Brad doing?" She froze. Just for a second, but I saw it. Her smile dropped completely, her face going pale as she stumbled over her words. "What? Who? Brad?" I said again, louder this time. "You know, the guy you've been kissing on my couch while I was in Japan?" Her eyes widened, and she opened her mouth like she was about to deny it. That's when I pulled my phone out of my pocket. I hit play on the first video with her voice crystal clear. The audio filled the room. Her face was priceless. She looked like she'd been smacked in the face with a frying pan. "What is this?" she stammered. "I turned the cameras back on, Sam. You thought you were clever, huh? Turning them off, thinking I'd never notice. Well, I did, and I've been watching the whole thing. Every single kiss. Every time he walked through that door." She started crying. Crocodile tears. "Dave, please, I can explain." "Explain what? That you've been screwing some guy in my house while I was working my ass off to give you this life? That you tried to turn off the cameras to cover your tracks? You thought I was stupid, Sam." "It was a mistake," she sobbed. "It didn't mean anything. I was lonely. You're always gone and I cut her off. "Don't even try to blame this on me. I didn't cheat." "You did." She dropped to her knees, hands over her face, still sobbing. I watched her for a minute, feeling absolutely nothing. The woman in front of me wasn't the person I thought I married. She wasn't someone I could ever trust again. "I want you out," I said flatly. "Pack your things and leave." She looked up at me, mascara running down her face. "Dave, no, please don't do this. We can fix this. I love you." I almost laughed. "You love me? You sure didn't look like it when Brad was sleeping in my bed." I turned and grabbed my bags, heading for the stairs. "I'll give you until tomorrow. Don't be here when I get back." As I walked away, I heard her whisper, "Oh my God. Oh my God." That night, I stayed at a friend's place. I didn't want to be under the same roof as her for another second. My lawyer already had the paperwork ready, and by the next morning, Sam was served. I didn't wait to see her reaction. I didn't care. I was done. For the first time in weeks, I felt free. By the next morning, the wheels were already in motion. I didn't bother texting or calling Sam after I left. I stayed at my friend Matt's place for the night. Matt didn't press for details. He let me sit on his couch in silence and said, "Whatever it is, man, you're welcome here." I appreciated that because the last thing I needed was someone trying to convince me to talk it out with Sam. That ship had sailed, hit an iceberg, and sunk to the bottom of the ocean. At 8 a.m. sharp, I got a call from my lawyer, Phil. Phil is a shark in the courtroom. He's the kind of lawyer who doesn't just win cases, he obliterates his opponents. "You ready to drop the hammer?" he asked, his voice calm but with that unmistakable edge of excitement. "I've been ready since I saw the first video," I replied. "Good," Phil said. "We're serving her the papers today. I've filed for divorce under grounds of adultery, backed up by the evidence you gave me, videos, timestamps, and the financial records. She's got no room to maneuver here." "Are the videos going to hold up?" I asked. This was something that had been nagging at me. I kept replaying Sam's voice in my head from the first video. I turned the cameras off. I knew her, and I knew she'd try to spin this. Maybe claim I violated her privacy. Phil chuckled. "Dave, you installed those cameras legally. They were in shared spaces, the living room, the kitchen. She knew the cameras existed because she tried to turn them off, and that proves intent to hide what she was doing. Plus, it's your house. You have every right to monitor it. The videos are valid evidence, and no judge is going to ignore clear footage of her cheating. Trust me." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I was back in control. Phil sent the divorce papers over to the process server, who was going to deliver them to Sam that morning. I couldn't stop picturing the look on her face when she got the papers. Knowing Sam, she'd probably crumble into tears, call me 50 times, and then play the victim to anyone who'd listen. I didn't care. While Phil was handling the legal side, I spent the morning getting all my ducks in a row. I went through our joint accounts one last time and transferred my portion of the savings into a separate account in my name. I wasn't about to let her drain it out of spite. Next, I called the bank to confirm the mortgage was still under my name. Sam never bothered to contribute much financially to the house. Her income mostly went to her fun money spending, which, let's be honest, now included dinner dates with Brad. My lawyer assured me this would work in my favor when it came to the settlement. I'd paid for the house, and I had proof. By noon, I got the confirmation text from Phil. "She's been served." I sat back in my chair, staring at the words. This was it. No turning back now. My phone started ringing an hour later. It was Sam. I ignored it. She called again, and again. Eventually, she switched to texting. "What is this, Dave? Divorce papers? Are you serious? Call me. We can talk about this. Please. I messed up, okay? But we can fix this. I love you. Don't throw us away." The irony wasn't lost on me. I was throwing us away? Really? I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Now she wanted to backpedal because the consequences were real. Too bad. By the time I showed up at the house that evening, Sam was waiting for me. She was sitting on the front steps, her face streaked with mascara, clutching a tissue in one hand like it was going to save her. "Dave," she said when I got out of the car. Her voice was shaky, desperate. "Please talk to me." I didn't respond. I walked past her, unlocked the front door, and stepped inside. She followed me, still sobbing. "Dave, don't do this," she pleaded. "I made a mistake. I was lonely, okay? I wasn't thinking. It didn't mean anything." I turned to face her, feeling nothing but cold indifference. "It didn't mean anything? That's not a mistake, Sam. That's a choice." She opened her mouth to argue, but I held up my hand. "I've already spoken to Phil. You're getting nothing. I've got the videos, the timestamps, the proof of you using our joint account to pay for your little dates. You're lucky I'm not pressing charges for fraud." Her face crumpled, and she fell silent. "This house? It's mine. You're leaving. The judge will see to that." "Where am I supposed to go?" she whispered. I shrugged. "That's not my problem. Maybe Brad can give you a place to stay." Her sobs turned into full-on wailing, but I didn't care. The divorce process itself moved quickly. With the evidence I had, there wasn't much for Sam to fight against. Phil handled it like the pro he is, and when we went to court, he tore through her case like tissue paper. The ruling was everything I'd hoped for. I kept the house. It was in my name, and I had proof I paid for it. I got the savings. Sam's financial misconduct with the joint account worked against her. She got nothing. No alimony, no assets, no sympathy. The judge didn't mince words when addressing her. He made it clear that her actions were deliberate, and there were consequences for them. Sam sat there in court, her head bowed, tears streaming down her face as the ruling was read. For a second, I thought I might feel bad for her. But then I remembered the videos. I remembered her smile when she said, "Trust me, he's clueless." Clueless, huh? Not anymore. I wasn't bitter. Not anymore. Sure, the whole situation had burned a hole through me at first, but the further I got from it, the clearer everything became. Sam wasn't some tragic mistake I made. She was a calculated choice on her end, one she didn't think would catch up to her. But here we were. She'd lost everything because she thought I was too stupid to notice. And now, I am finally free. Update. It's been a month since my divorce was finalized. I thought the chapter was closed, but Sam decided to make one last cameo in my life. Last Thursday, when I was coming home from work, soaked from running through the parking lot because I forgot my umbrella. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw her. She was sitting on the steps outside the front door, her knees tucked up to her chest, staring out at nothing. Her hair was plastered to her face from the rain, and she looked terrible. Like she hadn't slept in weeks. Like the confident, put-together Sam I'd married had been replaced by someone I didn't recognize. For a second, I debated turning the car around and leaving. Let her sit there in the rain. But curiosity got me, so I parked, grabbed my bag, and walked up to her. She didn't notice me until I was almost at the door. "Dave," she whispered, like saying my name hurt. I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there, staring at her. She looked smaller somehow, sitting there soaked to the bone, her eyes swollen and red. I should have felt something. Anger, pity, anything. But I didn't. "What are you doing here, Sam?" I finally asked. My voice was calm, flat. She looked up at me with those big tear-filled eyes, the same ones she used to look at me with when she wanted something. I didn't know where else to go. "Not my problem," I replied, stepping past her to unlock the door. "Please, Dave," she said quickly, scrambling to her feet. "Just let me talk to you. Just for a minute." I turned to face her, already tired of this conversation. "Why? What could you possibly have to say that I'd care about?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I messed up. I know I messed up, and I've spent every day since wishing I could take it back." I stared at her, waiting for her to continue. I wasn't about to make this easy for her. "I was stupid," she said, her voice trembling. "I thought I could get away with it. I thought you'd never find out, and I don't even know why I did it. I was lonely. She trailed off, realizing how weak the excuse sounded. I didn't say anything. "You don't understand how much I regret it," continued, tears streaming down her face. "I've lost everything. The house, the money, you. I screwed up the best thing in my life, and I can't fix it. I don't even know how to live with myself anymore." I looked at her and said, "You thought you could lie to me, cheat on me, and walk away like it was nothing. You chose this, Sam. You don't get to play the victim now." Her shoulders shook as she sobbed harder. "I know. I deserve this. But I loved you, Dave. I still love you. I miss you so much." "No, Sam," I said coldly. "You don't get to stand here and rewrite what happened. You destroyed us. You did this, and now you have to live with the consequences." Then she whispered, "Can't we try again? Can't we start over? I'll do anything. Therapy, counseling, whatever you want. I just want you back." I stared at her, stunned that she even had the audacity to suggest it. "You want me back? After what you did? You don't deserve me, Sam. You deserve exactly what you've got now. Nothing." Her eyes widened, and she looked like she might collapse right there on the steps. I didn't care. She wasn't my responsibility anymore. "I want you to leave," I said, my voice sharp. "Don't come back here. Don't text me. Don't call me. Don't try to fix this. We're done. You made sure of that." "Please," she croaked one last time, but I was already unlocking the door. I stepped inside, turning to face her one final time. "Goodbye, Sam." Then I shut the door in her face. Sam thought I'd fall apart without her. She thought I'd take her back when she begged, that I'd crumble at the sight of her tears. But she was wrong. I didn't need her. She made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. Alone. Final update. I didn't think I'd have any more to say about Sam, but life has a funny way of tying up loose ends. After she showed up begging for help the last time, I thought she was out of my life for good. Turns out, I wasn't the only one she tried to manipulate. Word gets around. About a week ago, I got a text from an unknown number. It was Brad. Yes, that Brad. "Hey man, I know you probably hate me, but you should know Sam's been telling people some messed up stuff about you. Thought you'd want to hear it straight from me?" I just stared at the text. I wasn't sure whether to laugh, delete it, or call the guy an idiot. But eventually I replied, "What are you talking about?" Turns out, Sam had been running around bad-mouthing me to anyone who'd listen. Friends, mutuals, and even Brad. She spun some pathetic story about how I was controlling, how I abandoned her emotionally, and how she was forced to cheat because I was such a cold, distant husband. Brad, of course, fell for it at first, until Sam moved in with him after I kicked her out. Yep, she brought her baggage straight to his doorstep, thinking she'd found her next meal ticket. Spoiler, it didn't take long for Brad to figure out the truth. She's nuts, man, Brad wrote. She moved in for a couple weeks, then started pulling the same crap she pulled on you. Lying, sneaking around, maxing out my credit card. I told her to leave, and she flipped out. I couldn't help but grin. Sam really thought she could spin this story, and now she was losing on every front. Brad and I ended up talking for a bit, which is wild considering the circumstances. I don't feel bad for him. He knew what he was getting into when he got involved with a married woman. But I'll give him credit. At least he admitted he was a fool. The cherry on top? He told me Sam is couch surfing, bouncing between friends who can barely tolerate her. Apparently, they've started to cut her off too, because all she does is whine about how unfair life is and how she deserves better. I didn't reply to Brad after that. I'd heard enough. Sam had officially burned every bridge she had. Me? I'm sitting in my house with Jasper and Luna sprawled across my lap and enjoying the quiet. The woman who once called me clueless has officially run out of people to fool. I don't need revenge. Sam's doing a fine job destroying herself.